this is another rational equation that we want to solve. Now, in looking at the quizzes, several people came up with methods far easier than the one I'm going to show you. But the one I'm going to show you follows kind of the steps that I've been teaching, and it also makes you aware of a particular problem that you need to be aware of. So what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to try and find a common denominator so I can bust this fraction up a little bit. And I can see I have an x, an x, and an x, and I have no other denominators, so my common denominator is x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this x, and I'm going to multiply it by the top and by the bottom over here. So really what I'm doing is I'm multiplying this fraction by x divided by x. So that would be equal to 4x plus 1 divided by 8x plus 2. So be careful that you understand the distribution there. Kind of walk yourself through it. Make sure you understand that carefully. Now the error that is made is that I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, my common denominator is x, so I'm multiplying everything by x, and then to come over here and say, okay, well, if I multiply that side by x, I multiply this side by x, and this is equal to 3. But that is incorrect. Because over here, I was really multiplying by x on the top and x on the bottom. I was multiplying by x over x. So here, I actually need to do the same thing. I need to multiply by x over x. These x's are going to cancel out. I'm still going to have 3 over x right here. That's because x over x is 1. So I was really just multiplying it by 1. When you make this just 3, that's going to mess up the whole problem. But I did it by x over x. So now I have a proportion here. I have a fraction equal to a fraction. A fraction equal to a fraction, and I'm going to cross multiply. So I have 24x plus 6 is equal to 4x squared plus x. I can see it's a quadratic. I want to get everything onto one side and set it equal to 0. So I have 4x squared minus 23x minus 6 is equal to 0. So I'm going to do what I like to do anyways and take this and move it over this way. Sorry about that. I like my zeros on the right. And I'm going to do, well, I can do the surefire method, but I can kind of see where this one's going to go. I have 4x squared. Well, let's do the surefire method so that everybody can see it. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. To get negative 23 would be negative 24 and 1. So I'm going to have 4x squared minus 24x plus 1x minus 6 equals 0. All I did was I changed my negative 23x into negative 24x and 1x. I'm going to group them. I'm going to take out a 4x from this side, and I have x minus 6 plus x minus 6 equals 0. I will reverse distribute the x minus 6, so I have x minus 6 times 4x plus 1 equals 0. So x equals 6 and negative 1/4. But I got to be careful and check my answer. Now, there's a couple of ways that I could have checked this. One way was in the beginning of the problem to look and see what is my domain of this problem. This is the original problem, and I can see right away that x cannot be equal to 0. If it's equal to 0, I'm going to have a 0 in the denominator here, here, and here. So that won't work. The other thing I need to look at is this denominator here. 8 plus 2 over x, that also cannot be equal to 0. Because if it is, I'll have 0 in a denominator. Which means that 2 over x cannot be equal to negative 8. 2 cannot be equal to negative 8x. Divide both sides by 8. X cannot be equal to negative 1/4, which if I look at the problem again, I can see now pretty clearly. If x is equal to negative 1/4, then this expression here is going to be negative 8. 8 plus negative 8 is 0. That gives me a 0 in the denominator. Well, if I go back to my answers that I got just a minute ago, well, this 1/4, negative 1/4 doesn't work. It is out of the domain. So my only answer that works is 6. And I could have found that again another way if I had just substituted in 6 and negative 1/4 into my problem and checked it that way. So the other way that I'm going to check it is by graphing it. So my original equation, I put my left-hand side, 3 divided by x, as my y1. I put my right-hand side, a little bit complicated. Got to be careful with the parentheses. You can look at how I did the parentheses on this one here, on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go zoom 6. There's 3 divided by x. And here is the other more complicated one. And you can kind of see right off the top here that there is certainly at negative 1/4 there is no intersection. They're not equal there. So the only answer that I could possibly have would have been the 6. Again, I think there are easier ways to do this problem, but just following along with what I did and then establishing the domain, extra steps, it's the way that I do it, but I got to be careful, particularly in that one tricky spot right here, where I'm multiplying the entire term by my common denominator.